First, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me here. I follow your podcast and your channel, and it's really helped me a lot in my journey so far. So you promote a ton of content. I don't know how you do it, but I really appreciate it, and it's been really helpful. Two things I think that I'm struggling most with in my personal statement and the application process more broadly. One, and I'm just going to be honest with you because I have very limited time. I'm worried about the character and fitness portions. For me personally, I have some misdemeanors in my background that I'm kind of struggling with how to address. And two, the topic itself for my personal statement. I'm a recovering addict. I have several years clean. It's part of my story, and I didn't really want to discuss that on my personal statement just because of how private it was. But I figured with all the character and fitness questions, it'd be best that I address that rather than shying away from it. So I'm just kind of struggling with making sure that I don't share too much or not too little with that, and make sure that I'm addressing this in. I know the addendum is for the character and fitness specifically, but my personal statement, I want to discuss my recovery process. So honestly, just blunt honesty about how it sounds and how I'm handling it would be really appreciated.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Kudos to you for taking this on head first. Really being upfront and honest about it. I think that's really important. Now, as for how to address it in the statement, if any of your misdemeanors relate to the addiction issues, then I would certainly recommend that you cover them and be in full disclosure about that. But alternatively, if there's no actual record of the addiction in terms of disciplinary action or charges or anything like that, then you may not need to cover it. And that's a decision for you to make, but you're not obligated to if the character and fitness questions don't address it directly. So if it was totally behind the scenes and you took care of it and it's no longer an issue, you may be better off not talking about it, because law schools may have some concerns about it, and better safe than sorry for your chances. Alternatively, if you do need to cover this because it is within the scope of the character and fitness questions, then I would have a very concise, matter-of-fact, direct statement about describing what the issue was, how you resolved it, why it's not going to be an issue going forward. So it could be something like, I was an addict for a couple of years or whatever it may be. I suffered as a consequence of it. I went to recovery. I went to regular meetings about it, and it's no longer a concern. And it's in my past, I've been clean for X number of years, and it's no longer an issue for me.
So the why I kind of felt like it was necessary for me to address it is that there are about 4 different misdemeanor charges spread over a period of time that are each connected in some way to my former addiction. So I didn't feel like the character and fitness, keeping that concise and just matter of fact, like, hey, I went and did the probation, I went and showed up and completed all terms of my probation or legal issues. But my fear was, now that they have all these information, that I have to be honest about this. If I go and I talk about, I don't know, something else in my life that maybe make for a great personal statement, it won't. I won't be adding any context to that other picture. So I chose to speak about, and it also is a huge thing, and I do think I'm going to be able to make a good personal statement for it. That it's genuine. I just am not a kind of a person who likes to delve that deep and privately, but I feel like because of the character and fitness, I've chose to go that way, and maybe with your opinion. So I'm now involved in. I go to the different recovery groups and hospitals and speak to patients there in recovery. So I use my personal statement like that. So I started it with me walking into this hospital, trying to just juxtapose my former in a hospital that I was previously treated in, that I'm now going into to speak to and help these recovering addicts. So the picture I was hoping to paint in my personal statement was, hey, addiction's terrible. I was in it. I'm here now speaking to these people. I have since grown through this process, and this is why I think it would make me a phenomenal attorney. I want to be a criminal defense attorney. So that is kind of the picture that I was trying to paint. What are your thoughts on that? Is that like pushing too much on, I don't know, maybe a too sensitive of a topic, or am I, by doing that, do you think that I'm maybe revealing too much myself to come off as too high of a risk to these schools?
No, I think it sounds fantastic.
Okay.
My only thought around this is that too many of your essays in the application are about addiction and recovery.
Right.
And maybe it's worth telling another story about some other aspect of your life that has nothing to do with this. Otherwise, this becomes a major theme of your application throughout. And I think it's worth sharing something else about yourself if you could. So you might have a character and fitness statement focused on the misdemeanors and the addiction, just matter of fact, concise, a couple hundred words. Maybe you then have a separate statement focused on your work now, going into hospitals, speaking, helping others down the path. But then you could have another statement altogether as your main personal statement focused on something else.
Focused on.
It's something to consider if nothing else, if something else does come to mind. I think your personal statement topic sounds fantastic, but I wouldn't want your whole application to be nothing about addiction, recovery.
Right. Okay. So I'm applying to a lot of different schools, and some have a diversity statement. My plan so far is to keep with that personal statement, because I feel like it addresses the character. I know that it's largely based on my addiction, my recovery, but that is a huge portion of why I want to practice law. For a diversity statement, I'm also gay. Is that something that you think should be discussed in an application, or if I'm combining both aspects of those? Again, it's another topic I don't want to push on unless it could be helpful. Because I've talked to some people and they just leave the diversity statement alone. I feel like it's another avenue for me to express myself. But other than my identity as a gay recovering addict, I don't feel like I have. I mean, I'm as a white man. I don't really have a lot of diversity to discuss in my understanding of it.
A diversity statement about being gay certainly falls within the umbrella for law school application. It's well worth discussing if you'd like to. And I think it would be another angle on your application. So yeah, go for it. It's not going to be as long as a personal statement, maybe 400 to 500 words, but well worth discussing, well worth covering.
For the resumes, is it okay to go over one page? Like if I did a 2-page resume, would that be acceptable, you think?
Typically, I would recommend keeping it to one page and not playing with the margins too much, keeping it limited. And it's tough. You have to make a lot of tough choices, of course. But with rare exceptions, one page would be the way to go.
And I guess lastly here, applying in January, I know I'm a little bit later. My plan was originally to take the September LSAT. That turned into the October LSAT, which turned into the November LSAT. Do you think that's I'm getting a lot of mixed information in my research about how much that's impacted you applying in January? Am I late yet, would you say? Or
January is not too late. January is the latest I would recommend, because law school is conducted on a rolling admissions basis. So the earlier you apply, the better. But January is still perfectly fine, and applying early matters much less than it used to in the past. So yeah, totally fine. I would just aim to get those applications in as soon as possible.
So you mentioned adding another layer to my application other than the addiction and recovery. When not all schools ask for a diversity statement, is there a way to do this like in an addenda? Or if I want to keep my personal statement about addiction and recovery, is there anything that I should do or could do that could show just a different aspect of myself that isn't so heavily charged or could be interpreted negatively? If I keep it, because I have a personal statement pretty much locked and loaded, ready to go. I'm wondering if there's any way that I'm not thinking of to kind of diversify my application. If I'm applying to a school that doesn't have a diversity statement or multiple essays.
Well, any school will have a anything else you want to tell us part of the application. So you can really use that for whatever you want. And you've got the personal statement and character and fitness addressing the addiction. You could have a diversity statement or optional essay talking about being gay. And I think that that's really enough, aside from, of course, what your resume covers.
So if the school allows, I can just submit like another couple 100-word essay about myself, away from these other topics that I discussed.
Absolutely.
Okay. What are some ways that clients that you've worked with done that in the past?
It's really for anything you want. So if there's parts of your resume that you didn't get a chance to talk about, but you'd like to, because a big mistake students make with personal statements is wanting to laundry list every single thing on their resume. They want to list all their work experience, all their undergraduate experience, but it becomes just too much. It's going broad rather than deep. It's much better to go deep on one particular area per essay. And so let's say you had 2 great extracurriculars or a great job and a great extracurricular. You could write one essay on each, choosing one for the personal statement, the other one for some optional essay.
Okay, Steve. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm just a little bit more relieved, less anxious about. I'm dealing with heavily loaded topics here, so the fact that you weren't completely like, "Oh, don't do it," is a relief for me. Also, I wouldn't have thought about at all just submitting something extra. I thought you just give them what they want and there wouldn't be an opportunity. So I think now I realize I have an option to include a little something extra, a couple of paragraphs about who I am or what outside the personal statement that could make it my application a little less risky and a little less high risk looking to these institutions. So that's what I would say is the most beneficial here. I'm a lot more hopeful and relieved about clicking submit on these now. So I appreciate that.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.